Hello everyone. I felt an urge to continue this series, so I have the video at 1.5 speed, so you'll see kind of do the same thing as last time. I'm going to go over a trip down memory lane to get some of the informational stuff out front. I'm still using most of the Super Easy A's, but I'm throwing in the final trump card team instead and using the 30-year anniversaries who have Easy Aid, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. So pretty much the same setup as last time. Like I said, you're going to use the Super Easy A's because even though the most ancient units that we have in this game, they're the most recent awakenings, and that's part of why I love Super Easy A's so much. I mean, it just takes a unit that has been lost to time, plucks it out of the dust, and says, "Here you go, buddy. Go again." And all of us players are just like, "Thank you," and we love it. And I specifically feel that way about the Vegito. I know that some of the more popular Dokkan YouTubers do not like the new Vegito, which is fair. I mean, you're not taking them into the newest red zones and stuff, but when it just comes to pure fun and aura, I think he does the job. So also here, part of my team is the Gogeta, and I'm recording this very, very late, so that Gogeta's been out for a while, but that new Super ACA Gogeta is also just very, very saucy. So let's talk a little bit about what was going on 5th year anniversary. I think many of you will remember 5th year anniversary as a bit of a weird one, because the unknown infectious disease that went across the entire world happened around the same time that the 5th year anniversary was happening. It was summertime, because I'm a global player, obviously, and I went from having full-time summer jobs to kind of having to find something to do. And I remember pulling the Gogeta at work. I don't recommend playing video games at work, but it is what it is. It was okay. No one else was there, so I was just kind of to my own devices. I had been saving up stones. I summoned like crazy on the first day, and I didn't get anything. And that is typically how things go for me with anniversaries. You know, I'll do the YouTuber recommended ways of saving, then summon all at once, and it doesn't work out for me. And then this is probably a placebo, but I did always notice, like, ooh, I just buy that $7 pack, and for some reason those 30 stones were lucky. I'm not really saying that I think there's anything going on there, but it's just been my experience. So, it's developed kind of a bad habit for me of being like, oh, I've only got 20 stones, maybe if I just buy a pack I'll get lucky, and I usually do. But I remember pulling that Gogeta at work, and unfortunately, that Gogeta and Vegito, the Super Saiyan blue ones, were the sauciest, sexiest, most amazing units on launch. They cleaned up, they beat everything's ass. The hardest difficulty event at that time was Legendary Goku event. I don't even think it was like the Legendary Goku event GT. I think it was just literally Legendary Goku event. And they pieced that shit up. I mean, they came out, they sauced, they had their active skills, they were transforming, they had dodge in 3rd slot, you never used them in 3rd slot, because he didn't need to, and the second that the next form of difficult content came out, they were aged. And unfortunately, for global players, that was like right away. However, they did introduce a new system that has not aged out. It's actually kind of become mandatory, which is link skill level ups. I have a very strong love-hate relationship with that, because I did fully link level 10 both of those units when they came out. Back before auto existed. Auto battles did not exist, and neither did the good link level stages. So I don't remember the exact stage it was, but we were link leveling by hand on the stages that took like 20 minutes, and it was fucking brutal. I'm very happy we're past that. But I do also remember being so hyped for year 5 that I did end up... Sorry, we're going to spill over into year 6 because I don't have as much to talk about year 6. I remember that when I was summoning for year 5, I don't think I changed the team at all for this. No, I did. No, I put the Buhan in there. Sorry, anyway, as I was saying, I remember I was so hyped for year 5 that I actually ended up buying a JP account off of eBay. I'm not sure if that's like allowed or not or whatever. I didn't end up keeping it because it came with 4,000 stones for 20 bucks. I remember summoning in my college lecture that morning on JP. It was in January, and I got 1 copy of each, and I was just so pissed. I was like, alright, whatever, I guess I'll play with him. But trying to take a fresh account and level up a new character, God, it's so tedious. It was unbearable. Alright, we're gonna get to year 6, right? Year 6. I remember summoning for these characters during my first internship at my first big boy real job. The year 6 units, Tech, sorry, not Tech, AGL UI Goku and Int Vegeta. I remember there being a huge debate on who was better, because their damage reduction versus dodge. Obviously Goku was better, he aged better, but now things are kind of going the other way. Kind of, right? So they easy aid last year, and immediately everyone was like, oh my god, Vegeta's so much better because damage reduction, etc, etc. But now we're at the point where the damage reduction isn't as good, and we're getting to the exact same point it was 4 years ago, where now Goku's better. Dodge is one of those things where on release, if a character is able to block and dodge, they're better than everything else in the game. And then it gets to a point where they're not able to block anymore, and they can only dodge. People say, oh my god, they suck. And then 2 years down the line, that unit is the best unit in the entire lineup from that year, because even if you... like, for that unit, it's dodge or die, but for the other units, it's die or die, which is just kind of how things work. And I think they realize that too, because there's a lot of bosses nowadays that cancel dodge. But as far as other interesting tidbits about year 6, I guess I will say one thing. I remember summoning at stoplights and getting to work after pulling Vegeta while I was driving. Not while I was driving, oh, that was stoplight. And thinking, you know what, man? Maybe I don't do that anymore. I was just too excited. But I mean, that's what this game did to me, and I've definitely grown up a little bit. And I mean, that was years ago. I actually did end up taking a job at that company that I was interning at. I'm no longer working there, but you know, that was my first internship into my first real job. It was pretty awesome. Not gonna lie. But you know, moving past that, we've finally getting into year 7. I think we're going to be closing in on this. I didn't really have much to say about year 6. I mean, year 6 was interesting because they added, you know, more of the legendary GT or legendary Vegeta events, and I think even the legendary Frieza event was in that time frame. They started adding those, which is things that people had been asking for a very long time. But it kind of just led credence to, like, the same kind of unit being dropped, like, oh, they stack. Like, oh, they stack. And then, as you'll see when we move on, there was a very large shift in tone for how units were built. But for the time, you know, they were fun. They also released the 17 in Golden Frieza and the 17, like the Universe 17 unit. And both of those, I remember them being just dead on release. I'm sure there's probably going to be someone who watches this video that says, no, they were fine. To me, they were dead on release. Yeah, they were great units that landed on UI Goku and Vegeta's team, but the UI Goku and Vegeta were so dominant that the rest of the team didn't matter. And you could just run MVP 17, everyone's defending, and it's just easy. But, yeah, I don't know. I mean, year 6, at the time it was hype, but looking back on it, it was kind of boring. They didn't really add anything super crazy. They added the revive mechanic, which is sparsely used, which is understandable. I mean, it's pretty overpowered. But yeah, I really wouldn't look back on year 6 super duper duper fondly. Most of my positive memories are around year 7. I mean, year 7 literally took the game from being like that kind of weird niche Dragon Ball gacha game to being its own like legitimate video game, in my opinion. But so we're closing in on the end of this fight, and that Goku that we're fighting right now, I believe, and I don't, he was the login bonus unit, which I like that they do that. I wish that they were a little bit better. They did kind of do that with year 7s. They actually had him like awaken and easy A and yada yada yada. But they still don't really make them like viable, which I think they should do that. So that was year 6. In my opinion, the least memorable year. Fight me. I don't know. I don't really care about UI Goku and Evolution Blue Vegeta. They were cool on release, but then they got overused, and to me, Super Saiyan is just so much more raw and sick and swaggy as opposed to Silver Hair. I don't know. It just doesn't do it for me. I don't think I changed my team here at all for year 7. And so, here we go. Year 7. I remember being so hyped for year 7 that I was like, oh, you know what? I think I might buy... No, I found my old JP account, and I logged into it. I started summoning, and it was the exact same thing, where like, okay, I got the unit. Now I have to go through all the tedious nonsense of like trying to get this account off the ground. And I just like, it just wasn't worth it to me. So that's when I just kind of lived vicariously through my YouTubers, and at that point, I think during the 6th anniversary, I had gotten my friend to start playing as well. So now it's me, my brother-in-law, and my friend that were typically playing this game, and all 3 of us are still playing it. So I was able to kind of like share videos with him, go back and forth, and we were both getting into it, we were both hyped. And I tell you what, dude, that time gap between the units releasing on JP and them releasing on Global was so long. Like it felt like an eternity. Not to mention that I was also graduating college and shit like that all at the same time. So by the time I actually did get to summon on my unit, I had graduated from college. So I tell you what, even though this is one of the most hyped units that's ever released, and one of the most hyped celebrations that's ever released, I actually don't remember where I was when I pulled this unit, but I do remember it being fairly easy. And this was the last year that, no, it wasn't the last year. This year, like, the secondary units that came out were, like, whatever, as well. Like, I don't really have any super fond memories of those units either. What was it? No, it wasn't. How am I blanking on this? Hold on, give me a second. Seventh anniversary Dokkan side units. Alright, who were they? Let me see. How am I blanking on this? I'm super sorry about that. Alright, it's alright. You got stimulation going. You can get to see all but don't look away. Bells, bells, and jingle, jingle. Who was the second set of units? How did I forget that? Well, in the meantime, while I'm talking about that, they released the Easy A's for the 3rd and 4th anniversary units at the same time to essentially help Gogeta and the God Duo together, because it was at a time where it was like, oh, I guess they're gonna do, you know, one set. And unfortunately that left the Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta kind of at like a position where he didn't really have a good companion. And as soon as they released the Super Saiyan 4s, it was like, oh shit, like this is like for real. And that team was great. But unfortunately, they also released Red Zone at the same time. I say unfortunately, I don't mean unfortunately, I think it was sick. But those units and the remainder of the units that existed were just barely scraping by. I mean, like, they were just scratching, attempting to hold on. By the way, the other units were the base Goku and Saiyan Vegeta, like Scatter Vegeta, which, I don't know. I think they should have been main headliners, and I appreciate them being hype units, but they weren't good enough for me. I hope that when they EZA, they're super good. But anyway, as I was saying, Red Zone released at a point where nothing was good enough to be in Red Zone except for these units, and they were still just barely scratching the surface. And I think that put all the players in a bad spot, except for global players, because we'd gotten the quote-unquote up-to-par units by then. We gotten some good EZAs, we got some other shit, but unfortunately, I still just think that the power level on release was a little bit low for these characters, and they never really fully recovered. And typically, when Dokkan releases something that's not spectacular on release, they usually make up for it. They'll kind of make amends for, you know, the people that spent money on that unit and didn't really get anything out of that unit. They're like, all right, well, when this unit comes back around, it'll be worth your time. Which is why didn't expect to see it go this way. I am so hyped for when Raditz EZAs. There is no way they just let Raditz fall flat again, right? There's no way. I mean, he's gonna be doing something crazy, because there was at a time where units were doing like 3 to 5 million, and now we're doing like 30 million, and it's bullshit. But at that time, like 3 to 5 million, doing it a couple times was like, oh my god, I'm doing like a total of 15 million, and it was crazy. Raditz was doing like 700k. Like, I remember summoning on him as a joke, and I got 2 of them in one multi, and I was like, alright, I guess I'm gonna rock this. And I was appalled. It was funny. It was like a funny appalled, but I was still sitting there thinking, like, I know it's the April Fool's unit, but this has got to be, like, a joke, right? Like, there's no way that this is a legitimate release, and they're not gonna, like, buff him or anything like that, because they've done that before. Because at one point they EZA'd the free-to-play Vegito Blue, and he wasn't good enough, and they buffed him, right? But that Raditz, I think, has to go down in history as just the worst unit released ever. I mean, he came out, and he is so bad that I am here talking about him instead of the Year 7 units, which people consider to be the most hypest, sickest, swaggiest shit of all time. Which it is. I'm, dare I say, probably more excited to use them than I am anything besides the headliners in Year 10. I mean, I remember in Year 9, when I summoned for Beast Gohan, being like, damn, one more year until those babies EZA. You know? And I've been feeling that way. Like, when Year 8 came around, I was like, man, we're only 2 years away from them EZAing. And here we are. What, like, not even a month before the EZA? Ooh, they better be good, because they didn't get nearly enough shelf time for how good those animations were. I'm just saying, they better be good, or people are going to be pissed, right? Because the Vegito that's on screen doing his stuff right now was not as good as people wanted him to be, and there was like talks like, oh, are they gonna do something about it? Are they gonna make him EZA? Not easy. Are they going to adjust his EZA? No, they're not. They didn't. They want you to buy the new one. The new one is better. Well, anyway, that was my rant. I will be doing a completion of this. So I will be back in another video. Thank you for stopping by. I will see you next time.